Imagine for a second, right, that you had to distill, like, all the infinite complexities of modern human life into exactly 99 essential sentences.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty tight budget.
Right. Every single interaction, every conflict, every moment of joy.
Mm.
If you woke up tomorrow and only had a budget of 99 specific lines to get you from breakfast to bedtime, what makes a cut? What do you leave out?
Well, I mean, it forces you to look at what we actually value because, in that scenario, you aren't just choosing vocabulary, you're selecting the absolute baseline requirements for survival in our society.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize what keeps you fed, what keeps you sheltered, and honestly, what keeps you from being ostracized.
And that is the core premise of our deep dive today. We are examining a really specific set of source material from a program called English Decoded.
Right, the slow English learning curriculum.
Yep, hosted by two guides, David and Emma. And we are zeroing in on day 8 of their 30-day speaking challenge, which features exactly those 99 sentences curated to help a learner navigate the world.
Just to set expectations for you listening at home, though, our mission today is not to teach you English.
No, you already know these words.
Right. Instead, we're looking at this curriculum through like a sociological lens. When educators sit down and decide what phrases a newcomer desperately needs to survive in a new culture, they are accidentally creating a blueprint.
A blueprint of hidden scripts, right.
Exactly. They expose the rigid, rehearsed scripts that all of us rely on every single day, whether we realize it or not.
And the method David and Emma use to teach this blueprint is honestly fascinating all on its own. They rely on a technique called shadowing.
Oh, yeah. Shadowing is intense.
It really is. The hosts say a sentence, they slow it down, and then the listener is instructed to repeat it out loud, perfectly copying the rhythm, the cadence, and, the pronunciation.
Because the philosophy behind shadowing is highly physical. Emma actually mentions in the source material that your mouth needs practice just as much as your ears do.
Right.
It treats language less like an intellectual exercise of, memorizing grammar rules on a whiteboard, and more like muscle memory.
It's like learning the choreography to a dance, or, I don't know, training for a sport.
Yeah, precisely.
You are literally training your jaw and your tongue to physically form the shapes of societal survival. It implies that functioning in a society is an active performance.
You have to rehearse the lines until they live in your actual muscles.
Right. And the lines they choose to have the learner rehearse first, well, they tell us everything about the modern hierarchy of needs.
Oh, for sure. Let's look at where the curriculum begins. Because before you can make friends, before you can integrate into a community, you have to navigate the massive, rigid systems that control our resources.
Which is why the very first segments of these 99 sentences are entirely transactional. They focus heavily on banking, airports, and hotels.
Which makes total sense, right? If you
Yeah.
think about it, to exist in a new place, your needs aren't just foraging for food and finding a cave anymore.
Right, we're past the hunter-gatherer stage.
Exactly. Your needs are capital, mobility, and temporary shelter. And access to all three of those things is heavily gatekept by massive institutions.
The banking sentences they teach really highlight this, I think, because they start with the absolute basics, like asking to open an account or checking a balance.
But it rapidly escalates into the complexities of modern capitalism.
It really does.
Right.
Suddenly, the learner is practicing phrases about paying in installments, applying for loans, and questioning transaction fees.
And what stands out to me there is the complete absence of emotion in these phrases. They're purely functional.
Cold, almost.
Right. You are essentially learning the exact passwords required to make a bureaucratic machine dispense what you need.
And the airport section carries that exact same sterile energy. It is heavily regulated travel.
Finding the check-in counter, asking about delayed flights, finding the duty-free shop.
Yeah, and stating things like, I need to go through security. It is literally an obstacle course of compliance.
And then you arrive at the hotel, which is basically the institutional version of securing shelter. Claiming your space in a strange place requires a very specific dialect.
You have to confirm the reservation. Like, they use the example, I have a reservation under the name Khan.
Right.
Then you get into the troubleshooting, asking someone to fix the air conditioner, requesting an extra pillow, asking about Wi-Fi or, pool hours.
It is all about maintaining your temporary ecosystem.
Exactly. I look at this opening block of material, the banks, the airports, the hotels,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of the tutorial level of a complex video game.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison. How do you mean?
Well, when you start a new game And you aren't really playing the main story yet. You are just walking up to the merchant or the innkeeper and learning which buttons to press on your controller to make the trade window open.
Yeah, or to rent a bed for the night.
Right. You're just pressing buttons to get a mechanical response. But I have to ask, does this heavy focus on transactions suggest a bleak reality?
In what way?
Like, is modern life less about actually connecting with human beings and more about just trying to get complex systems to work for us? Are we all just, pressing buttons on each other?
Well, I see why it feels bleak, but let's reframe what these scripts actually accomplish. These highly transactional phrases aren't replacing human connection.
They're not.
No, they are providing a shield so that you can survive long enough for human connection to eventually happen. Think about your own experiences at an airport security checkpoint or a bank counter.
Stressful. Very stressful.
Exactly. These are inherently stressful environments. There's a massive power imbalance between you and the person behind the glass.
Because they have the boarding pass or they have your money and you don't.
Precisely. So having a precise, rehearsed script reduces the friction of that interaction.
I get it.
If you know exactly how to say, is there a fee for this transaction, you protect yourself. You remove the vulnerability of the unknown.
Right. You aren't bumbling around trying to invent a way to ask for your money.
You are using the established code. And that shield allows you to save your emotional energy for the interactions that actually matter later on.
Okay, so the script is the armor you wear to get through the bureaucratic gauntlet. I can definitely see that. And that structural armor actually maps perfectly onto the next phase of the source material.
Because once those basic survival level needs are met, the curriculum undergoes a massive shift.
Yeah, we move from rigid institutional systems to the infinitely more complex art of nuance.
And the difficulty level spikes dramatically here, not in the complexity of the vocabulary, but in the social intelligence required to use it correctly.
Because we get into giving advice and making suggestions. The curriculum doesn't just teach you how to tell people what to do.
No, it teaches you how to gently, almost imperceptibly influence them.
Right, listen to the padding on these sentences. They teach phrases like, maybe you could try a different approach, or if I were you, I'd wait a little longer.
Yeah, you have to pay attention to the qualifiers in there. Maybe. If I were you, perhaps.
You might want to double check that. Have you thought about asking for help? Perhaps it's better, to be honest. It is a masterclass in tiptoeing around an issue.
It really is.
But let me push back on this, because I look at all this padding, maybe you could try, perhaps it's better, and it feels incredibly passive-aggressive to me.
Really?
Yeah. Are we essentially training learners to never be direct? If I need a coworker to check their math, why am I saying you might want to double check that instead of just saying check your work?
I see your point.
It just feels like we are proving that our culture relies heavily on a manipulation to preserve social harmony.
Calling it manipulation might be taking it a step too far, but it undeniably reveals a deep cultural priority. In many English-speaking cultures, directness, especially when giving advice or correcting someone, is immediately coded as aggression.
Or a display of superiority.
Exactly. If you just say, check your work, the other person's defense mechanisms go straight up.
Yeah.
What the curriculum is doing here is vital. It is teaching the learner that preserving the relationship is actually more important than the advice itself.
So preserving the relationship takes priority over the task.
Always. Once you leave the transactional sphere, you are no longer talking to the bank teller where the only goal is getting your cash.
Right.
You are talking to a colleague, a neighbor, a friend, someone whose ongoing cooperation you are going to need tomorrow and the next day.
So this indirect politeness is basically the social lubricant that keeps communities from fracturing every time someone makes a minor mistake.
That's a great way to put it. We pad our language to absorb the shock of our opinions.
That makes total sense. And speaking of our opinions, the curriculum moves right from giving advice into how we observe and evaluate the world around us.
Right. Describing people and describing places. This is basically the vocabulary of categorization.
Categorization.
Yeah, it teaches the learner how to organize their reality based on social value.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the descriptors they choose for people are fascinating. Aside from one purely physical sentence, which is, he's quite tall with short black hair.
Right, just a basic visual description.
Every other phrase is an evaluation of character. She's very kind and easygoing. He's a hardworking and honest person. My grandmother is very wise.
They are teaching the learner how to judge others, or rather, how to signal who is safe and who is valuable to the community.
They even include the nuance of social development, like she's a bit shy at first, contrasting with she's confident and outgoing.
And they teach you to define people by their utility to you, right?
Like, my best friend is incredibly supportive. Exactly.
And the section on describing places does the exact same thing for geography. It is all about evaluating an environment based on the emotional vibe it gives you.
Assessing whether an environment serves your needs or threatens them.
Exactly.
Like, the countryside here is so peaceful, the beach is absolutely stunning.
Contrast that with this street is always crowded, which implies a chaotic negative.
Right, or this neighborhood is very quiet. This building is quite old but charming. It is entirely about curating your surroundings.
We are basically teaching people how to articulate their preferences, to seek out the peaceful and the charming and to avoid the crowded.
If you synthesize these sections, the learner is being handed the tools to find their place in the social hierarchy. They know how to survive the institutions, they know how to interact without causing offense, and they know how to evaluate their peers.
Which brings them to the crucible, the absolute highest stakes interactions a person can have.
Situations where using the wrong phrase doesn't just cause a moment of awkwardness, it can cost you your livelihood or turn a minor error into a massive conflict.
We're talking about job interviews and complaints.
Oh, man. Let's unpack the job interview first. This is the ultimate performative script, isn't it?
Without a doubt, you are sitting across from a representative of a system, pitching yourself to prove your economic worth.
And the required phrases are heavily steeped in corporate culture. The curriculum forces the learner to practice things like, tell me a little about yourself and why do you want to work here?
But then it gives them the exact prepackaged answers they are expected to recite.
Like, I have 5 years of experience in this field, and the absolute pinnacle of corporate buzzwords, I'm a quick learner and a team player.
Yes. That phrase, team player, operates like a verbal handshake. You aren't really describing your personality, you are reciting a password.
A password to get in.
You are saying those exact words to prove to the interviewer that you understand and submit to the rules of the corporate game.
You are proving that you speak the dialect of human resources.
Exactly.
Seeking new challenges. Expressing that you are really passionate about this industry. And of course, the mandatory sign-off. I look forward to hearing from you.
It is entirely formulaic, but the stakes get even higher when things go wrong.
The next topic is complaints and apologies, the delicate dance of de-escalation.
Managing conflict really is the ultimate test of cultural fluency. When a product breaks or a deadline is missed, how do you resolve it without starting a fire?
The phrases they teach are a careful mix of taking responsibility and demanding restitution. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, this isn't what I ordered.
Or, I apologize for being late. Could I get a refund, please?
Right. But 2 specific phrases jumped out at me. I completely understand your frustration, and thank you for your patience. To me, a phrase like, I completely understand your frustration, is basically a verbal fire extinguisher.
It's a line handed out by every corporate customer service training manual on the planet.
Its entire design is to immediately lower the temperature of an aggressive interaction. But consider the implication of that. By teaching these exact corporate de-escalation scripts to a learner, are we actually teaching them how to be empathetic?
Or are we just teaching them how to mimic an automated chatbot so they don't get yelled at?
Exactly. I mean, if someone is angry with me and I recite, I completely understand your frustration, I'm not really connecting with them. I'm just trying to make them go away.
I totally understand the instinct to view it that way. But let's look at the mechanics of a high-stakes conflict. In those moments, authenticity is actually incredibly dangerous.
Dangerous.
Yeah. If a customer is furious because a product is broken, or a client is angry about a delayed project, they do not want your authentic, messy, defensive, emotional reaction. They want the script.
They want the script over a genuine apology.
Think about the alternative. The authentic reaction to being yelled at is usually to yell back or to shut down entirely.
That's true.
The script saying, I completely understand your frustration, signals that the social contract is still intact. You might not feel that empathy in your soul, but by using that phrase, you are agreeing to play by the rules of civil society.
You are choosing the boundary of the script over the chaos of a fight. So the script isn't a lack of empathy. The script is the container that keeps the grievance from spilling over and ruining everything.
Exactly. It protects the person complaining and it protects the person receiving the complaint. It allows 2 frustrated humans to process an error without tearing each other apart.
I see the utility in that. And honestly, accepting that the script is a tool for peace makes the final section of this source of material feel deeply earned.
Oh, absolutely. It would be a pretty tragic commentary on modern life if a 99-sentence survival curriculum ended on corporate apologies and customer service jargon.
Right. But it pivots toward the human element. The final topic is celebrations and special occasions.
The ultimate payoff for surviving the systems and managing the conflicts. Share joy.
It is entirely about marking milestones with the people you have managed to connect with. Happy birthday to you. Congratulations on your promotion.
Let's raise a toast to the new couple. Happy New Year to you and your family. Notice how the structural armor we talked about earlier basically falls away here.
These are the moments where the transactional barriers dissolve. Let's celebrate this wonderful achievement. Cheers to a great year ahead. Wishing you all the happiness in the world.
If you step back and synthesize the narrative arc of these 99 sentences, it paints an incredibly poignant picture of the human experience.
It really does. You start with this lonely traveler, isolated in a new place. They need access to money. They are navigating the sterile anxiety of an airport.
They are trying to secure a hotel room.
Yeah, their entire focus is on survival within transactional institutions. Then, they slowly learn to interact with others. They learn how to give advice without causing offense.
They learn to observe the beauty of a city and recognize the kindness of a friend.
They secure their livelihood in a job interview. They learn how to gracefully handle the inevitable mistakes and conflicts of daily life. And after rowing that entire gauntlet, where do they end up?
Raising a glass at a wedding or surrounded by community at a New Year's party, it basically encodes the journey from isolated survival to shared human joy into just 99 lines.
And David and Emma, the guides of this curriculum, seem to deeply understand the weight of what they are asking the learner to do.
Because in their parting advice for the material, they offer a surprising amount of comfort.
They do. They explicitly acknowledge that some of these topics, specifically banking and job interviews, are going to feel tricky and intimidating.
They validate that feeling as completely normal. They recognize that they aren't just teaching vocabulary, they are equipping people to handle high-stress, high-stakes environments.
And their core advice for managing that stress is repetition. They remind the listener that the more you repeat these phrases, the more natural they will sound, and the more that muscle memory will take over when you actually need it.
And they leave the learner with a very specific homework assignment. Try using at least 3 of today's sentences in a real conversation this week.
They are pushing the learner to bridge the gap between theory and practice, to take these rehearsed lines out into the friction of the real world.
Exactly. They suggest using phrases like, "Congratulations on your promotion," or "Could I get a refund, please?"
Which perfectly encapsulates the massive spectrum we just explored, right? From demanding restitution from a faceless system to celebrating the success of a friend.
It really covers all the bases.
So, what does this all leave us with? Today, we took a deep dive into a simple language learning script intended for beginners. But what we ultimately found was a mirror reflecting how every single one of us navigates our days.
We examined how we rely on transactional language to survive rigid systems like banks and airports.
We analyzed how we use padded, indirect language to preserve social harmony and influence our peers. We looked at the performative scripts we memorized to secure employment and de-escalate conflicts.
And finally, we saw the language we use to share our joy. It really serves as a reminder that our society runs on a very specific set of agreed-upon codes.
Whether you are learning them for the very first time or you have been unconsciously using them your entire life, we all rely on this linguistic architecture to function.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with. We started by asking you to imagine distilling your entire life into 99 essential sentences. We have unpacked the script. We know the lines we have to rehearse for the bank teller, the hiring manager, the TSA agent, and the customer service desk, just to keep the wheels of society turning.
We know the script inside and out.
But if we all rely on these exact rehearsed sentences to get through the friction of our daily lives, it makes you wonder, is true intimacy and real human connection just those rare, quiet moments when we finally feel safe enough to put the script away?